Hi, I'm Shannon Sorbo.
I am Andrew Furman.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Brahen.
I'm Hanan Majid.
Hi, I'm Valerie Dornbos. Okay, so my group decided to focus on the issue of substance abuse-caused recidivism within the Louisiana prison system. Once known as the incarceration capital of the world, Louisiana has an extremely high incarceration rate. A 2018 State of Louisiana Prison Report found that there were 33,186 prisoners. In contrast, the state of Wisconsin reported 23,857 inmates. One of the main causes of this extremely high number is substance abuse-caused recidivism. The state of Louisiana defines recidivism as the return to custody following conviction for a felony or technical revocation of supervision after having been released from incarceration through a completed sentence, released on parole, conditional release, or split probation sentence. A report published by the Loyola Law Review noted that a leading cause of recidivism was substance abuse, and that repeated incarceration has several negative impacts on people's lives. This high total indicates that prisoners are not being provided with the resources they need to stay drug-free and out of jail. Thus, this problem warranted further investigation and the development of potential solutions. Andrew will be explaining some of the problems that Louisiana and other parts of the United States and world face.
So when we first started this project, we look at U.S. as a whole. We actually found that one out of every 100 people in the U.S. Actually will go to prison. On top of that, 44% of those people will actually return to prison a year later. If we go to see on the next slide that U.S. incarnation rate per 100,000 is way over any other country. So these are the top countries in the world for incarnation rates. And actually, if you take the U.S. recidivism rate, that 44% of people that go back to prison, it actually almost exactly equals Turkey's incarnation rate, which is number 2 in the world. That really shows kind of how big the issue is. But we also realized that we couldn't tackle this issue as a whole. We couldn't do the whole U.S. in general. So as you can see, Louisiana prison rate is actually way higher than the U.S. average. It's actually number 1 in the U.S. for prison rate, which is over 150 per 100,000 people, which I mean is a lot in general. And if we go dive into a little more detail about that, we got 33,186 prisoners in Louisiana in 2018. And then 2016, there were 48% of the people that were in prison in Louisiana were there for drug-related offenses, which is which is 16,000 from that 33,000 that are in prison. We also found that if they did not complete a drug rehab program, 67 of those people from drug-related offenses will actually return to prison. And if they did, only 37 will. So in contrast, that's the difference between 10,000 people going back to prison or 5,000 people going back to prison. And Shannon will talk more about why this is such a big issue.
The state of Louisiana is the nation's leader in incarceration rates. With that, the numbers are not improving, causing an already problem of overcrowding to worsen. Overcrowded jails makes a bigger dent in the state's budget, taking away money put aside for programs to help inmates. With the lack of resources available for inmates, it causes inmates not to have the opportunity for improving themselves to be ready for the community when they are released. This is why we created our program. We want to help inmates be ready and educated in various ways so that they do not recommit a drug offense and end up back in the system.
Well, me and Stephanie will be talking about the previous approaches or solutions. The first one is Michigan Reentry Program, which I will be talking about, then TPC Model by Louisiana, which Stephanie will be talking about. So the Michigan Reentry Program, as the name implies, it was implemented in Michigan. So the whole plan revolved around identifying the inmate's strength upon entering into the correction system and building on those strengths throughout the time they spend in the correction system till they're discharged. So it's divided into 3 phases. The number 1 phase is getting ready phase. So the getting ready phase, which takes place during the offender's term of imprisonment. The second phase is going home phase, which heavily focuses on inmates' transition back to the community. And the final phase is staying home phase, which it happens when the community supervision and eventual discharge of prison occurs, and they keep a check on the person if they are doing fine or not. And the next model will be explained by Stephanie.
So the transition from prison to community model by the state of Louisiana is also a model started by the National Institute of Corrections and implemented in Louisiana. And as you see, as I talk about it, you realize that it's pretty similar to the Michigan Reentry Program because they were all started by the National Institute of Corrections. This program was started to address the criminogenic risks of offenders and their needs. It also occurs in 3 phases, which is the staying home phase, the getting ready phase, the staying home phase, and the going home phase. So the getting ready phase is the institutionalized phase, which begins when the offenders are taken to the prison system. And in this stage, they have assessment to identify their special needs in terms of mental health, in terms of education, and they use this needs to form an individualized reentry plan for prisoners. And then the second phase is the going home phase, in which the prison is the transitional phase between when they're getting closer to the release date. And during this time, they help them with getting ready for the outside world in terms of getting the necessary documentations like their social security card, or getting ready for work, getting classes on work ethics, getting educational degrees and things like that. Then the last phase is the staying home phase, which is basically the community phase. And in this phase, they try to connect them with community members, with faith groups, volunteer groups, mentors, anything that can help them to be able to be successful in the outside world. So this diagram figure right here shows the TPC model from the institutionalized phase to the community phase. And it begins with sentencing and ends with the release preparation during the institutionalized phase. Then the re-entry phase begins with the release preparation and ends with supervision and services and going into discharge. Then the community phase goes from when they're discharged to when aftercare, which goes with the staying home phase, and them becoming law-abiding citizens.
So for our solution, we actually use both models that Stephanie and I just talked about, and then we actually integrated some more things in there through research that we thought would do justice in our program. So our solution, just like the ones above, have 3 different phases, and we hit a lot of different aspects throughout all these phases. We hit mental health and addiction, which goes with the drug use, and then gaining resources that our prisoners can use outside of prison, and then getting them that education, whether that's the GED or even a college degree, if they so choose. So phase 1 of our solution is really about identifying the needs of the prisoners. This is going to happen throughout sentencing and towards the beginning of their imprisonment sentence. The big thing here is we want to drug test. And we don't mean just like drug test right away. We want to drug test them while they're still in prison and throughout their sentencing to kind of make sure that they're not doing drugs while in prison and or they're not even trying to get drugs. Also decreasing the amount of drugs that are in prison. We also want to give them a mentor right away. So this is actually a huge part of one of the program. We want other people, who's been through prison, who's reintegrated society successfully, to kind of help these people through kind of like a little brother, big brother program, where they kind of help them through the whole process so that they can't assault them. Also, we want to give them some psychology tests, such as the Myers-Briggs test or the Eisenach personality questionnaire. These will serve 2 purposes. One is see if they have any mental issues that we can handle when they're in prison, or at least try to treat. And then also to find out what jobs they'd be best at, just if they want to continue that education, we want to make sure they know what jobs they would possibly be best at. And then in phase 2, we label it provision and provision of resources and education. This will happen while the prisoners are inside of prison throughout the whole sentencing. We want to give them that health professionals, whether it be mental health, basically whatever they need to take care of themselves to hopefully solve that problem or at least make it better than it was beforehand. Also, as I talked about before, we want to give them that education. We test them to figure out what they need to get at, but also we want to make sure, they know enough about money and ethics and even drug abuse, so that when they do reintegrate society, they know about those things that can hopefully be more successful. Again, some resources we want to make sure they have, the mentors are going to be there for them to kind of help them throughout this whole process, whether that be, along with health professionals, or you can help them with the education possibly as well. And we really want to focus on, making sure everyone does get their GED or diploma if, of course, they have to choose so. But we want to make sure that they know that they're going to have a lot higher chances coming out of getting a job. And then in phase 3, we have this hope of community, because this is when the prisoners are getting out of prison and reintegrating. Once again, we can't guarantee they're going to stay in contact with mentors or anything like that because they're no longer technically in the program. However, we'll encourage that, they know someone out there who's gone through this all and has been successful at least so far. And then they have someone, to kind of talk to and, they have that little connection. And also group counseling is a thing that we want to offer and make sure they have that resource so that if they do have those mental issues or are struggling at all, they have someone to at least talk to upon that mentor. We believe that our program will be pretty successful because we hit it from a lot of different directions. In phase 1, we really focus on getting them that test and getting that resources, that mentor right away, so that they can go on to the next steps and hopefully be more successful. In phase 2, we hit that addiction and we try to solve that issue. Any psychological problems they have, we touch on that and hopefully at least make those better, if not hopefully solve it eventually. And we give them that education that they'll need. Hopefully when they get out, they can be integrated a lot easier. And in phase 3, continuation of resources. We're going to really make sure they have the resources, they have that mentor if they so choose, the group counseling, and then they're really doing well and integrating society themselves. Definitely go on talk about more reasons why we believe this is a good solution.
So why our applied innovation will work? First of all, when we talked about the problem with the prison system in America, and in Louisiana specifically, we talked about overcrowding and how recidivism also leads to overcrowding. So one reason why we think our applied innovation will work is that we hope to reduce overcrowding and in turn save money from the budget of the Louisiana prison system. For instance, one aim of our program is to reduce recidivism within 2 years of our program being started. We hope to reduce recidivism by 17,000 people. And so with that, we hope to save at least $1 million, which is a lot of money as compared to what the state of Louisiana is already saving for recidivism. And in that way, we're also saving money that could be used for other things. So the budget that we're hoping to use for this is the same budget that the state of Louisiana prison system uses. At the moment, the general budget is $292.5 million state generated funds, and that is for just the general budget. However, $8.5 million has been put towards recidivism reduction as of 2019, and we hope to use that $8.5 million towards our program. That is saying that if we were to take away every other program that is being instituted right now, or any other thing that is used to reduce recidivism at this point, and just focus all the money and the funds on our program. So limitations to our applied innovation. First of all, one part of our program was to give parole as an incentive to people, to mentors, to offenders to kind of join our program and participate in our program. However, parole is not a right, it's a privilege that offenders get, and therefore we cannot for sure say that every prisoner who goes through our program is going to get parole as an incentive. Parole depends on the offender, his or her actions, the offense that got them into the prison system, and basically how they have been throughout their time in the prison system, and therefore we can offer it for every single offender. Another limitation to our program is continued participation even after release. So this is because if after the going home phase and the stay in home phase, if prisoners, if offenders and now ex-convicts decide not to participate in our program, we cannot force them or we cannot chase them to still participate in our program. Basically, after that phase, we cannot guarantee that offenders will want to, or ex-convicts will want to participate in our program and take whatever resources we have for them. Shannon now will talk about other limitations to our program.
The next limitation we have for our program is the funding. The state's budget of $8.5 million for correctional facilities is already to the max due to how much each inmate costs. Our program will not need extra money. We will use the already in place budget and implement our program. However, that means cutting other programs or taking funding away from something else in the correctional facility. Our goal is to have the program eventually fund itself, having it be a benefit and not a limitation. Additionally, another limitation we have is the use of volunteers. People might not be willing to work for free, causing our program to fall through. However, once the program starts to fund itself, we will then be able to pay the volunteers, making it yet again a benefit and not a limitation.
The United Nations created the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals in 2016 as guidelines that countries should utilize in order to create a more sustainable and just world. 9 of these goals were directly relevant to our solution of the 3-phase model, and then today I will be providing details on the top 3. The first goal, goal number 1, is no poverty. Poverty and relapses of drug abuse often go hand in hand. Abusing drugs, when you are often poor, you'll have often abused drugs, which means that you're going to continue to stay poor because of your past history. You're then you're going to be unable to get a job. This means that there's going to be increased inequalities, as poor minority communities are often the ones that are most at risk for recidivism and drug abuse. Additionally, our solution provides rehabilitation and training. We often also want to provide mentorship because this will help people to eliminate and be utilize less on their drugs. And then also, if you don't use drugs, then you're going to be able to get a better job and you will have less poverty. Our third goal, goal number 3, is good health and well-being. So the main purpose of our solution is to reduce the impacts of drugs on the community. There are several different negative impacts of drugs, including increased crime, mental health problems, and other issues that make the community weak. Our goal with our solution is to promote the health of the community and the prisoners, so we're going to be able to create strong partnerships among both of these parties. Our fourth goal that was relevant is goal number 4, or quality education. One of the cornerstones of our solution is that prisoners are educated about the impacts of drug abuse. They're offered high school and college classes, which means that they're going to be able to develop the skills that may lead to better job prospects in the future, help them get out of poverty, and hopefully help them to stay drug-free. In addition, we hope to improve the environment, the literacy of the community by having these prisoners pass the information and skills that they learned in our program along to their families and friends. We hope that this will help the community, again, to have a stronger partnership. Thank you for listening to our presentation.